Excuse me. Excuse me, sir. Is this the place where old soldiers can apply for pensions?
Yes, that's right. We'll need to fill out a form. I'll need to know what your record of service is and where you served and the dates of service. And I hope you brought some paperwork with you that might help document your case.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I'm Bays Wells from Farmington, Connecticut. And I kept a journal for 2 years. I never thought I'd use it like this, but it's certainly coming in handy. On May 10th, 1775, I enlisted Colonel Sedgwick, enlisted myself as a sergeant in the 8th Company in the 4th Regiment, raised by the United Colonies, for the defense of the same against the tyranny of Great Britain. We marched north to Fort Ticonderoga, joined Montgomery's army, setting out to invade Canada, and I sailed aboard both the sloop Enterprise and the schooner Liberty, both captured that May by General Arnold, which gave us mastery on the Great Lakes Lake.
You're not talking about General Benedict Arnold, the traitor, the treasonous dog that sold out the country.
Hold your tongue, friend. I was with Arnold in Canada and later on Lake Champlain, and I won't stand for any disrespect of this man while he was actually fighting for us.
Yes, but he was a traitor to his country. He sold us out.
That was the end of the war. That was the end of the war, and after many indignities, as you must know by now. And I'll not excuse his treason, but only state that while he fought with us, he was the best commander, best loved we ever had, and in fact made all the difference. Do you know what he did for this country in 1776? Do you have any idea at all?
Well, I don't think I do. I never heard of his activities prior to...
Well, forgive me for saying so, but you don't know a thing about Arnold. You don't know a damn thing. I was there. And now sit and listen a little bit, and I'll tell you a little something about your country's history, all right? We left Canada from Isle Noir more dead than alive. There were 1,500 of us, most sick with smallpox and malaria, and what they underwent is not in my power to describe. We fell back all the way to Ticonderoga and began building a new encampment across the lake from Ty, but the generals were counting on the Navy to stop the British from invading from Canada, and it wasn't for Arnold, we wouldn't have had a Navy. He was bred a mariner, you know, and he whipped the shipyard into shape, and we were launching pretty quick, a new boat every week, actually. I was commissioned lieutenant aboard the gondola Providence, and we began patrolling the lake in late August, and by late September the lake was turning windy and cold, so we fell back to the inside of Valcour Island. And just as we were thinking about coming back to Ty for the winter, the enemy ships sailed down from the northward and blocked us in. We knew they was there about 8 in the morning of October 11th, and we knew that there would be a battle royal. Our row galleys and the Royal Savage got underway and sailed out, but soon returned to the rest of the fleet, all but the Savage, which by some bad management sailed up on the reef at the south end of the island and had to be abandoned. The only thing that saved us that day was the wind. It was from the north, and it had brought them down all right, but it stopped their bigger ships from coming up with us. By about 11, the British gunboats rode up to within musket shot of our line, and the fighting became general and very warm. The British boarded our Savage and actually turned their guns on us, but we silenced her in a hurry. They also sent their Indians onto the island and the mainland, so we were pretty well boxed in and just dug down to fight. Then one of their schooners, the Carleton, a good sailor, managed to come up with their gunboats. We pretty well pounded away at each other all day. You should have seen Arnold. He was fighting like a tiger aboard the Congress galley, pointing almost every gun himself. But I'll give those Britishers credit. They cut us up pretty badly. And their schooner refused to quit fighting, even when she was ordered to. She finally had to be towed away by one of their general's boats. I think we blew up one of their gunboats, but an hour after the fighting stopped, our gunboat, Philadelphia, was holed in so many places she sank, and we suffered a great many casualties. The doctor aboard the hospital ship told me he cut off a great many legs and arms and had to throw 7 men overboard that had died of their wounds. But Arnold would not surrender. He called General Waterbury his number 2 and Colonel Wigglesworth his number 3 for a council of war.
I've heard from the rest of the fleet, and our casualties stand at around 50 men. But as Colonel Wigglesworth has observed, we are almost out of powder. The British have fielded a formidable fleet. You have to give them credit for that. Let's look to our options.
Huh. What options? We're trapped. Fight and go down, or surrender.
I trust you will not use the word surrender again in my presence, sir. I have a plan, and its success depends on how well we execute the maneuver. What we'll do is this: have your men be ready to weigh anchor in 1 hour. We will use our sweeps, wrapped in cloth and well greased. Colonel Wigglesworth will lead in the Trumbull, followed by the rest of the fleet in single file, guided by a light in the stern of the vessel ahead. Care should be taken so as that light can be viewed from the rear only. Gentlemen, I believe in this cause, and let's give thanks to the Almighty God for preserving and delivering us from our more than savage enemies.
Truth be known, the British helped us some. The end of their line was pretty far from the New York shore, and at sunset they set fire to the Savage, which blew up and then burned brightly. I think the noise and light of that fire captured our enemy's attention while we snuck by behind them.
Men, gather round. We're going to take a lantern shrouded on 3 sides and put it in the stern of the vessel. We'll use these to follow one another as we row. We must do so silently, so we'll take rags, grease them, and wrap them around each sweep. This must be done in the utmost quiet. Is that understood? Troubles were by no means over. Our ships were so badly damaged from the battle that we abandoned 2 of the gunboats during the night. Then we had to halt at Schuyler's Island to stop our leaks and mend our sails. When the morning came, we could see the British standing to the north and searching us out. Over the next day and night, the wind changed and we rowed and sailed for our lives, but the enemy's boat caught up with us just below Split Rock Mountain, and we had to fight him again. They first surrounded the Washington, and firing broadsides into her, she was forced to strike her colors. Over 100 of our men were made prisoners. General Waterbury really didn't have much choice, but he and Arnold became bitter enemies from that time on. Arnold sailed on, fighting the best of the enemy sailors on the retreat. He and the Congress with 4 gunboats. I was on one of those gunboats. fought them along the eastern shore, running to the south, but now sure we were in big trouble. But Arnold would not surrender. He led us into Ferris's Bay and ordered us to ground our boats and set them afire. He ordered us to get our wounded off, leave our flags flying to show the enemy what we thought of it. He set the Marines at the top of the bank to defend our ships while they burned, and all the while the enemy tacked back and forth and kept firing on us. After General Arnold was sure the enemy could not take and use our boats, we marched off through the woods with the inhabitants of Panton and made our way to Crown Point, where boats met us and took us across.
Blew up Crown Point and made our way back to Ty. We arrived there about 4 in the morning, exceedingly fatigued, believe me, and unwell, having been without sleep or refreshment for over 3 days. Well, Carleton and his ships hung around for another week, but it was getting cold. They realized they weren't going to be able to beat us as easily as they had thought, and so they decided to head back up into Canada. You and others might not call that a victory, but we had to sacrifice all but 4 of our fine ships, but we bought the nation another whole season to prepare to meet the British again. And I still hold and always will that we won the war in the long run, that September and October on Lake Champlain.
Well, Mr. Wells, I didn't learn any of that in school, and I very much appreciate your account, and I'll make sure it gets all written down here and that you get qualified for what you deserve, sir.
Thank you very much.